In an immense, undefined space where the absence of light and shadow creates a sense of nowhere, a formless consciousness begins to awaken. The environment is a thick, pulsating fog, with no physical references to space or time. The consciousness feels a constant sensation of falling, as if plummeting into an endless abyss. Echoes and indistinguishable murmurs fill the air, coming from every direction simultaneously. An all-encompassing cold heightens the discomfort and sense of unease. In this void, the consciousness encounters a floating mirror that reflects not the surroundings but its own fear. The mirror is framed by old, deteriorated moldings, and its surface is covered in a thin layer of grime. In the reflection, a distorted face appears, eyes wide with terror and an expression of despair. Behind the mirror, a hooded figure lurks in the shadows, exuding a menacing presence. Every attempt to approach the mirror only causes the reflection to distort further, intensifying the growing sense of despair. The hooded figure's eyes, glowing and penetrating, seem to pierce the essence of the consciousness, deepening the terror. As the consciousness struggles to understand, fragments of memories start to surface, disconnected and disturbing images flash rapidly. A child crying in a dark room, inaudible whispers, and a strange ritual ceremony. These memories come with a sense of guilt and fear, hinting at something deeply unsettling connected to them. As the consciousness begins to grasp the situation, it realizes that the hooded figure is not an external entity, but a manifestation of its own fears and traumas. The malignant presence starts to reveal itself as a force that feeds on insecurities and repressed desires. Each dark thought and regret becomes a weapon used by the shadow against the consciousness. The shadow is depicted as a swirling mass of darkness that contorts and adapts to the consciousness's thoughts and fears. It emits distorted murmurs and laughter, as if feeding off negative emotions. The environment around the consciousness starts to shift according to the intensity of the fear and pain, becoming increasingly oppressive and threatening. The consciousness attempts to resist, but every effort is in vain. The shadow begins to create ever more terrifying scenarios, visions of irreparable loss, betrayal, and absolute despair. The internal struggle becomes a constant battle between finding meaning and succumbing to the psychological terror imposed by the shadow. The visions become more vivid and disturbing, bringing back painful moments from the consciousness's life, further intensifying the sense of despair and betrayal. In a rare moment of clarity, the consciousness understands the true nature of the pact it made. The shadow is an extension of its own forbidden desires and unresolved traumas. This revelation comes with an overwhelming sense of guilt and despair. The consciousness witnesses the moment of the pacted dark ceremony, a wish fulfilled at a high cost. This realization comes as a series of interconnected visions, showing the essence of the pact and its devastating impact. The consciousness tries to separate itself from the shadow, but finds there is no escape. The shadow is part of it, a manifestation of its own psyche that cannot be separated. The struggle becomes an eternal cycle of attempt and failure, where every temporary victory is followed by a deeper fall into despair. The environment transforms into an endless maze of mirrors and shadows, where each escape attempt leads the consciousness back to the beginning. The feeling of being trapped in an eternal cycle is overwhelming, with each repetition increasing the intensity of terror and hopelessness. The story ends with the consciousness dissolving back into the void, awaiting the next awakening. The sensation is of perpetual terror, where the line between sanity and madness dissolves completely, and the eternal cycle of terror and despair restarts. The space around closes in, and the feeling of being in an endless nightmare is reinforced by a rising echoing sound. The ending is a slow and inevitable descent into absolute void, creating a sense of resignation to a new form of existence as part of an unending cycle of terror.